A bizarre trigger warning was issued at the beginning of the film Wicked that I was unaware of. If you have a fragile mind, you might not want to go see Wicked because you're going to see the following. A green-skinned woman is mocked, bullied, and humiliated because of her skin color. That's actually a really deep metaphor for racism. A disabled woman in a wheelchair is treated in a condescending manner by able-bodied people, and talking animals are persecuted in a fantastical society. So this is your official trigger warning for all of the discrimination and prejudice that is a theme in the film Wicked. This was a trigger warning officially created by the British Board of Film Classification.
Well, that makes sense. You can't say anything in Britain without getting in trouble anymore.
Because I guess this is what they do. They offer official disclaimers for all of this stuff in any theatrical release in Britain. They also offered them for violence, one of threat and horror that says occasional threatening scenes include fantastical creatures and human guards chasing after two women. People narrowly escape an explosion. Monkeys appear to be in pain and distress as they grow wings, and there are brief, scary moments. And this is a disclaimer they wrote for adult viewers, not for children. Just so we're clear. You said Matt Smith spoke out against trigger warnings because he himself is British. I believe he would be more familiar with the regulations that they put on these things.
Yeah.
And they actually said that that is a sign of his privilege that he is against trigger warnings.
Yeah.
You can only be against trigger warnings if you are not part of the affected minority groups.
It reminded me of
who need them.
It reminded me of the meme that would go around a couple years ago where, like, if you watched the original Twister on streaming, it would say rated PG-13 for frightening scenes of storms.
You couldn't have a more on-the-nose metaphor for racism than a race-swapped Elphaba with green skin who gets discriminated against for having green skin. So that needed a disclaimer, apparently.
I do agree with Matt Smith and what most people say in these situations, which is it's actually detrimental to the movie-going experience to put these types of things on there. And oddly enough, I think the same holds true a lot of the time when you watch channels like this and you get a preconceived notion about what a movie may be. Maybe we review it and we point out something in the movie that bothers us. Then if you're going to see it, that's all you're going to be looking for rather than coming across it naturally. And here's the thing. It might not bother you as much as it bothers someone else. Like what somebody else points out in a movie may be something that annoys you, but it actually might be less annoying because you're not getting the entirety of the experience as you watch it. So an annoying scene in a movie can be annoying, but if it's bookended by great work at the beginning and the end, it's not going to bother you as much. But if you go into it knowing that scene is there, you're going to disregard the possible good that could come before and after because what you're looking for is that scene to bother you.
Yeah, you need to understand who you are. Like this is like if you're the type of person who can't handle gory scenes, right? Are you going to watch a slasher film? Yeah. If you get faint at the sight of blood, are you going to watch Scream? Like that would be a personal decision that you have to make. Or for instance, a classic movie like Gone with the Wind, they have offered disclaimers about racism about in Gone with the Wind. Or there's a scene in Gone with the Wind where one of these soldiers has to get his leg amputated. Yeah. If you know that you're the type of person who is easily shaken by violent scenes like that, don't watch the movie. Doesn't mean that other people can't watch and enjoy the movie, but know who you are.
Yeah.
And actually, maybe you should challenge yourself. If you can't handle things like that, maybe you should go in and challenge yourself to be able to handle things like that.
I've just found that a lot of times when we get these aren't the trigger warnings, when people talk about the awful woke stuff in movies and television shows, usually when it's television shows, it's as bad as I imagine it being because they spend more time on it. But usually when they talk about it in movies, it's fly by night and it passes and then the movie just keeps going and it doesn't bother me as much. But it has the potential to be worse in my brain because I knew it was coming beforehand because people are talking about it, which is why I talk about how I avoid reviews before I even go watch them, because their opinion will color my experience watching the movie before I even get to it. And I think that holds true for trigger warnings as well.
I think there's only one trigger warning that should have been shown for Wicked. It should say, trigger warning, Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande are in this movie. Because the worst thing about this film has been all of the marketing around it, their personalities, and them holding hands and bursting into tears in interviews. The rest of it, I don't really care. Another one of these actresses in the movie, it was referred to here in the trigger warning, a disabled woman in a wheelchair is treated in a condescending manner by able-bodied people in this movie. Okay. Her name is Nessa Rose in the movie, and she is played by an actress named Marissa Bode, and she experiences discrimination in the movie. She has now had to speak out on her TikTok account, saying that people are making discriminatory comments about her character for having a disability, and it needs to stop. So, as if things could possibly get any worse for the social media discussion of Wicked.
Okay, here we go.
Here's this.
Low-hanging fruit that too many of you are comfortable taking. Before even being cast in Wicked, I had received comments just as me, as Marissa, not Nessa, around the words of stand up for yourself, I guess you can't stand him, etc. These comments aren't original. And when these jokes are being made by non-disabled strangers with a punchline of not being able to walk, it very much feels like laughing at rather than laughing with. And I'm literally shaking a little bit. The most frustrating part about all of this is how scared I am to even post/talk about this, which is also the bigger reason as to why I'm making this video in the first place.
The scariest thing about this should be for her is like, when you get to that level of fame, or at least into a production of this level, it doesn't matter what you say, you're going to get stuff that's going to upset you.
Right.
You're going to get responses that are going to bother you. You don't get to... I think one of the things that actors of today might be envious of is like, and we'll get back to this, is that back in the day, when you were one of the anointed in Hollywood, when you were one of the big name celebrities, you got all the good, none of the bad. Like, you didn't have social media to have people pushing back on you. So you didn't have to deal with people's opinions on your work 24/7. The most you were going to get was like, you got bad reviews for your movie, right? But you're not going to go out and have people talking in Twitter language to you about what they think of your work. Mostly what you got was adulation and love. Now you can get that love more easily because you can become a niche internet micro celebrity. You can become famous, or in this case, you can star or be one of the stars of a big budget Hollywood film, but you don't get to do that anymore in a vacuum. Now you have to take the bad with the good. And I think a lot of this generation is kind of envious of the fact that before them, because they wouldn't be able to do it even if they wanted to, like none of these people would hand over their social medias to like a manager and be like, you handle it, right? They're addicted to the good, but they don't want the bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I just wonder what the hell she was trying to accomplish with posting this video. Because all of the people that would see this video and take it to heart weren't the ones making jokes about her wheelchair in the first place. And the people who were making jokes about her being in a wheelchair are going to continue making jokes about her being in a wheelchair because they find it funny and they don't care how you feel.
And even if they don't, no, they might not even find the jokes funny. They find your response to it funny, which is why the best response that you could have is none.
You're encouraging a pile-on now.
Yep.
I don't know how you can grow up. I mean, it looks like she's pretty young. You can grow up being this familiar with social media and how it works and not see the natural conclusion of telling people that their jokes bother you. Like, that's
it's a recipe for them to continue.
It's completely counterproductive.
Yep.
And I don't think that she came off entitled or anything. Nothing as bad as Cynthia Erivo's behavior, that's for sure.
No, maybe just naive to
getting mad at fan edits or whatever. But
naive to the way that these things work.
Very naive, and you are asking too much from strangers on the internet. She said, it's not asking too much to expect people to not make jokes like this. Yes, it is. You are definitely asking too much.
In a real world setting, that might be true. If we're talking like where there's social decorum in a room with people at an event, that wouldn't be asking too much. On the internet, you're asking an absolutely insane thing of an entire populace. It's not going to happen.
You know who else was asking too much? The marketing department at Universal, when they were planning the marketing budget for Wicked. It, on top of being a $350 million movie that was 3 hours long and part one of two.
$150 million budget.
$150 million was for their production, or not their production, their...
And P&A. $150 million budget, 150 P&A. And then 350...
Are you sure about that?
Yeah. Yep.
350 for what?
350 for marketing partners. So partnering with Target, partnering with all of these makeup brands and stuff like that.
Oh, because they did the Stanley Cups. They did that weird mac and cheese thing. The Kraft mac and cheese.
So technically, the marketing, the partner marketing, doesn't show up on Universal's
Barbie
sheets.
dolls with porn links.
Yes.
Target makeup brands. They had an Xfinity ad.
$145 million budget for the movie. $150 million marketing.
Got it.
And then $350 million.
So that was more money than what they spent on the actual movie.
And then, $350 million partner marketing, which doesn't show up on their books. But still, there's a reason why I think the point I made to Mary is like, look, they said that if you went into Target over the weekend, you heard the Wicked soundtrack rather than Christmas music. The idea that you could, and I was at a Target over the weekend, I don't remember what I heard. The idea that any store is going to play something other than Mariah Carey when the holiday season starts must have cost a fortune.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah. The chief marketing officer at Universal said, "We knew the size of this enterprise and we had to treat it like a cultural event. This is IP, but there's not an existing film franchise, so we felt obligated to do everything to become an event."
Well, they did. They absolutely did.
I only think they accomplished that insofar as people hated Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande's behavior.
I mean, I don't think that's true. I don't think that the average person knows that stuff happened. I think the average person went by a bunch of displays and saw Wicked makeup and Wicked food and Wicked this and Wicked. I don't think that the average person even knows that Cynthia Erivo is a person. They don't know the name Cynthia Erivo.
No,
and they don't
like
know that these two women were crying constantly into each other's shoulders while the marketing was going on.
If I see mainstream Instagram influencers making skits mocking their behavior with no further context, and it's getting a lot of attention. But that was social media specific media, like entertainment, right? It was like these things were viral on social media, so influencers will latch on to that and make content out of it, right? The brand strategy president said, "We were inspired by the vision of the filmmakers, including the scope and scale of this production and artistry in front and behind the camera. We started very early. Our goal was to make a culturally defining moment which would not only drive box office, but connect with fans and consumers and go beyond the Broadway shows following. There's something joyful, fantastical, and affectious about these characters." So they wanted to reach outside of the theater kid demographic and make this mainstream.
So it's made $359.3 million after 2 weekends. Only 97 of that has come international. So just think about this. It's made about $360 million. It's through its 2 biggest weeks so far, and it's just now hitting like some of what the budget was with marketing. And remember, so you take $360 million. First of all, cut that in half. You don't keep all of that. The studio keeps half, And that's a rough estimate. The studio keeps roughly half of that. So they're making about, what, 170 something million, $180 million?
Do you think this is ridiculous that Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo were paid exactly the same amount?
Yes. Yeah,
I think that is effing ridiculous.
It's the most 2024 Hollywood thing, though, for like no male star is going to do that.
Oh, no.
No, like... actually, no, that's not true. There have been examples of male stars who have pushed for this. I can't remember off the top of my head. We've talked about it. But in this case, that always felt like a virtue signal.
No, it's insane. I know that Cynthia Erivo is technically the protagonist. It doesn't matter, though, because Ariana Grande is many, many times more famous and notable than Cynthia Erivo. And she is bringing more people to buy tickets.
It matters who the biggest star of the film is.
Ariana Grande is getting more people to see Wicked than Cynthia Erivo. That's just the truth. So
is that
of
true
course
that
she's worth more money.
Is that true that they got paid the same? I heard
they
there was
did.
Like a huge
they insisted publicly. They both insisted that they were paid exactly the same amount.
Okay, then in one way that I could believe it is that they got the same base salary, but Ariana Grande has a way better deal on the back end if it does better.
Maybe. They partnered with Lexus, Starbucks, Target, Xfinity, Bloomingdale's, Lego.
We need
Barbie, obviously, Android, Hilton Hotels.
We need Daily Wire to make a parody of this when Snow White comes out, where they have Patriot Dirt product placement for their Snow White movie.
Betty Crocker, Kit Kat, H&M, Aerie, Crocs.
Yeah.
Absolute Vodka as well was in here. And then Ariana Grande's own beauty brand, which I would expect her to do.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.